welcome back to the pharmacy. And I think if to repurpose an old phrase, that was just what the doctor ordered for Nashville Soccer Club over the weekend. A dominating performance for Nashville SC as they win 3-1 against Minnesota. Clay Trainum joined by Valair Shabilla, not joined by Stephen Robinson, who, he's talked about how much he loves Minnesota in the past. He's talked about how much he loves Chattanooga in the past. And I do have to wonder if there's a little bit of shame for why he's not on this show today, Valair.
That must be it. I have no other explanation. He did, at a period of his life, live in Minnesota as well, meaning that he has a tattoo of the Minnesota Vikings on his arm. These things are adding up. So they also wear
Yeah.
light blue, similar to a favorite team of his, Chattanooga.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is all adds up.
So an unbelievable, first few weeks for Nashville SC, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about this upcoming week, obviously Inter Miami. But before we do any of that, the most important question that I have every week, and that is, Blair, how was your weekend, buddy?
Hey man, it's been good. It was good. Well, not it has been. It's over now. Some not favorable news coming in from my side of the world, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, there are bigger things going on than soccer. But to me, I'm feeling it the most when it comes to the soccer, um, with certain decisions made by FIFA. That's kind of affecting the Iraqi national team. I'm from Iraq, for those who don't know. And I have my travels booked for this game that is supposed to happen in Mexico and Monterrey at the end of the month. And everything is going against me with this travel. Like, Mexico gets all these different attacks, and the airspace in Mexico is all weirded out. Obviously, things have calmed down since, so I think that on that front we're good. So that was the first scare. The second scare is that there's a war going on, and that war is unfortunately affecting the Iraqi national team. So those news weren't great. Everything else around it was pretty good. Arsenal win. Got to watch a good amount of MLS and got to play a lot of video games. And as far as weekends go, there have been worse.
I mean, you've made it 2 minutes into this without talking about Tottenham, so I'm just impressed.
I don't talk about championship teams. That's a rule I've had for a long, long time, and I'm just gonna stick
How how much were you grinning at the video of who was it? Lincoln City, who's looking to get promoted from League One to Championship, singing Tottenham away.
I have not even seen that, to be honest, but that's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great.
after a game, Lincoln City was in the stands. I think it was an away game, and they were chanting Tottenham away, ole ole,
That's amazing. Yeah,
championship.
I would assume that's probably the biggest stadium Lincoln City would have been in decades, maybe more. I don't know. How was
They've
your?
had some big FA Cup games over the years.
I'm sure
Up
they
there.
have. Maybe West Ham. Yeah, yeah.
The well, my weekend was mostly basketball, junior college basketball, where I got to see someone named Kobe Bryant play, spelled the same way, and which he was not the same player as Kobe Bryant. He shot 8% from three, so not quite the same level of player as Kobe
Man,
Bryant. But
man, catching strays, man.
but I also, speaking of hoops, I do want to give a shout out to Tennessee State, who made the NCAA tournament, playing in Evansville, Indiana. By the way, the home of the OVC tournament. Tennessee State's going to the tournament for the first time since '94. So shout out to the Tigers. But yeah, my weekend was mostly hoops, and of course, watching Nashville SC win, which is always an enjoyable experience. And that's 12 goals in three home games this year, Blair. I
Wow.
think that gets people excited.
Yeah, and also when you look on the other side, it's what, two goals conceded at home. That's it, right? Um,
Yeah,
I mean, not bad, huh? Like, I mean, when you look at the way, and I do think it's important when those goals are coming in. Most of them came in the first halves of these games, which really sets the tone for the game. And I think puts a lot of fans at ease. I mean, even when Minnesota got their goal in that match, I don't think many Nashville fans were worried. I mean, I didn't feel it in the atmosphere, at least. Uh,
I was talking to a coworker here a few minutes ago, and I said honestly, 10 minutes into that game, I wasn't worried about Nashville winning. Like I was one of those where it was just like, I think I said that when Nashville was losing to DC last year, where it was just kind of a couple fluke goals, and I was like, Nashville's gonna win this game.
that was the
Like,
quarterfinal, right, of the Open Cup.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was just like, this is.
yeah.
There's a very clear difference between these two teams, and you could just feel it watching that game.
Yeah, and for Minnesota, I didn't think they did much wrong, really. I just thought Nashville just, I don't know, outplayed them, I guess, outsmarted them in a lot of ways, and just were a better quality side. I mean, I think for the atmosphere as a whole, it is just kind of like a continuation of the New England game and the Atletico Ottawa game. Like from the start, Nashville came up on the front foot, and the fans were in it from the start, chanting, having fun. And I know Geodis wasn't full for this one. Like I'm not saying it was the biggest crowd, but the crowd made noise, and I think these things matter, especially for new players who are coming in. You see Waleji, you see the Madrigal and Wubens and all these guys coming in. They haven't really experienced the Geodis crowd. They haven't really experienced the Nashville crowd. So having that crowd in and being able to kind of interact with what's going on, even the funny sort of anecdote with a referee getting almost concussed, I guess, randomly. The crowd clapping the referee was hilarious. He did his little lap. I thought that was really funny. But stuff like that, just showcases that fans are in it and they're paying attention a little bit more maybe than when Nashville isn't flying, right? And I think that's kind of a testament to it's a give or take between the atmosphere and the players, and one feeds off the other.
Yeah, I mean, it's a clear difference between playing away and playing at home.
Mhm.
Like, I joked with plenty of people watching that FC Dallas game that if I need to go to sleep at any point this year, I'm just going to pull up the FC Dallas replay on Apple TV and I'll be asleep pretty quickly. Like the energy is just not there. And so one of the things that having an engaged, group of fans is that it kind of forces players to like really pull into a game, even if they aren't up for it. But I don't think that's really an issue with Nashville. I think Nashville tends to come out pretty strong, even even before BJ Callahan. That was definitely a tactic, was try and start the game strong and then kind of lull yourself into a nap in the old days. So I was very, very excited about the way that they've played. I think some of the proof of concept, I think, has really, really started to show itself in these home games. I do think, there's some worrisome things, and we'll talk about the game a little bit more in detail in the second segment. But I think they're starting to turn heads. Nashville's starting to turn heads in a big bad way. Earlier today, Soccer Wise, which is a show that we all enjoy. Valair has professional ties, of course.
Some
So,
of
in
us
the
have been
interest of
on the show.
yeah, in the interest of full disclosure, the first 10 minutes of Soccer Wise today is all about how good Nashville is. And Matt Doyle last night just puts out Nashville SC is a wagon.
Yeah.
Like, I think everyone is bought in. Last year it was like we think Nashville's good. This year it is Nashville SC is one of the best teams in the league, and it's evident in the way that they're playing to start the season. And so
Yeah.
that's the part that's really exciting because this is not Nashville SC in its final form.
Yeah, and then also like just going off sort of the national uh, perception of Nashville SC. I mean, even Doyle's column yesterday. I don't know if folks have been reading it, which I highly recommend. He's been writing this column for, well, it used to be for MLS for 15 years, and now he does it for his own. So, highly recommend again for good written MLS coverage. I mean, the first thing, the opening story was about Nashville SC and how good of a team they are. But aside from Doyle, I mean, you hear it from Mikel Giannone, who does Apple TV coverage in Spanish and English. Andrew Eby, others have been talking about Tom Bogert. All these guys have been talking about it, and I think it's always interesting to hear it before the season starts because I'm a little uneasy about it, and I'm like, things can go wrong. Like, like you don't know, Atletico Ottawa can score a couple of goals, and then everything is different here. But I think it's different now that we have a few games, that we've seen this team for a few games, and we can say with certainty that there have been improvements on the improvements that were made last year. So there were clear improvements. And then now we've seen that sort of next evolution, next step of the team. I mean, Nashville SC almost had 500 passes against Minnesota. I don't know. I need FBRF is gone, so I can't really look easily. But I don't know when was the last time Nashville SC had 500 passes. It doesn't happen. Um, and it's one of those things where it's also sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, because they talked about being a championship team and they want to win everything, and then everybody else is talking about the same things. It's kind of starting to become something that opponents are realizing as well, because if you look at how opponents talk about Nashville SC, whether it's coaches, players, or even fans, it is in a different regard than what it was last season and seasons before.
Well, and the difference in the offseason I'm talking about is like, this is not the first offseason where Nashville has signed a player that everyone's been excited that Nashville has signed.
Mm-hmm.
I had a little bit of concern, around the initial excitement around Espinoza, which I was excited about because I was like, oh, I remember when we all talked this way about Sean Davis. You know what I mean? And then it was really a square peg round hole sort of situation. And the same sort of thing happened with Sam Surge before his first season, which was fine, but it wasn't like some unbelievable first season for Nashville either. And so now they've signed these players and we can see them fitting in the way that Nashville plays. So it's like checking both boxes.
Yes.
And I don't think that that's necessarily been the case with the Nashville offseason. It's always been, this is a player that sounds like on paper should be pretty good here. We don't exactly know how it'll line up, but it should work. In this case, it is Nashville signed this player who lines up exactly the way that Nashville needs him to line up. And this will work even better in this situation than it was previous. So it's like you can see the sort of arc, like of it going up and the improvement going up before you then see it in practice. And I think another big thing to pull out of that with Espinoza in particular is Espinoza was pretty hard on himself with the FC Dallas performance, and didn't come across as like trying too hard, but was very much had his, I would say fingerprints, but this is soccer, so I would say he had his footprints all over the game against Minnesota to make up for it.
I do want to talk about that because I'm the one who asked him, what went wrong against Dallas, and you know, I also asked BJ, I think it was Jacob Shames from the Tennessee, and asked BJ after the match. Espinosa said this, and BJ said, "Well, I don't agree with him." In terms of what Espinosa said was that he takes full responsibility for missing those two chances, and we said that on this very show last week because he's a DP player and he should be at least putting those on target, and he wasn't able to. And to see him take that responsibility and not even give an answer to anything else, just say that's why we drew. He was like very singular in his thinking, and coming in and scoring that goal is a big testament. And then I do want to say, like, nobody fed him that line. Like, there wasn't like a comms person saying, "Hey, like, you should say this." No, like he came up with that. He truly believes that, and like Clay said, it wasn't performative. It wasn't like, oh, I want to get the fans on my side. It was mostly like, you can tell he's been thinking about it, and came into the game maybe ready maybe a little bit more excited, maybe a little bit more motivated than he would have otherwise, and it paid off.
Yeah, and he's coming into a veteran squad too. Like Nashville is a younger team than they have been, but it's a veteran squad, and he wants to prove that he's worthy of being one of the highest paid players on that squad.
Yes.
And that's definitely in his head as someone who was a veteran player, in another place. And so he knows how the league works. He knows that people feel compelled to prove themselves, and we'll talk a little bit about that specifically a little bit more. But first off, there's a game on Wednesday, so you might be listening to this on your way to go wait out a storm delay at Geodis Park potentially. I do feel like this is exactly the kind of performance that NSC wanted going into Wednesday. You come off FC Dallas, not exactly great. I think what I said on here was the same questions remain, like an opportunity to answer questions. They remain unanswered, but not a terrible performance at FC Dallas by any means. And so you kind of have that bounce back performance, and now you're going into one of the biggest games of the season on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's also important to see where Miami are, who they have a loss and 2 wins in MLS. They didn't play in the early round of Champions Cup. They qualified directly. They did play in a random friendly in Puerto Rico while Nashville were playing Atletico Ottawa, and somebody tackled Messi. And no, I don't mean a player. I mean a fan tackled Messi. So that's where they were while Nashville were playing Atletico Ottawa. A little bit different vibe, I would say. That said, Miami also just haven't looked. I mean, it's hard to say they haven't looked convincing when they beat their rivals 5-2 away from home, but they haven't. They didn't look convincing against DC, even though they went up 2-0, ended up winning that game 2-1. That game was in Baltimore because they want to make more money. That all that said, Miami just they haven't looked the same as they were last year, is what I'm trying to get to here, and that doesn't mean Nashville's going to find it easy. Nashville, every time they've kind of climbed up to the heights of heights, they found Miami there, and Miami more often than not have knocked them down. And this would be the most sort of the most thing that would solidify Nashville as an elite team is if they get past Miami. That would put them in a scale they have never been before. That would put them in a group of teams that they've never been at before, because there's always been that one roadblock, and it's always been Miami.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are very excited and very nervous in training camp, and I will say Miami hasn't always been a roadblock. Nashville has gotten past Miami. It just
Early
was
on, sorry.
before Messi.
Not since Messi got there. The playoffs in 2020 were pretty hilarious. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's true.
So shout out to Blaise Matuidi.
Yes, he's probably still in Miami.
We're gonna talk more about the game that did just happen in the next segment, and we will get to previewing the upcoming 2 games for Nashville SC. But before we do that, Valair put out a challenge to you guys last week to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. A couple of you took him up on that challenge and left a 5-star review. As per usual, if you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we will read your review out on here. Our preference would be that you leave a review that we make Steven read, and you can interpret what we say when we say we make Steven read it in any way you would like. Just know that his favorite teams are Chelsea and Chattanooga, and just please leave in Minnesota.
Yes.
Okay. And please keep that in mind as you write your review that we'll make him read next week.
Loves Michigan State, by the way, if we're talking college.
Oh, yeah, massive Michigan and Ohio State. And Ohio State even more so.
It's like a weird thing. He likes both, yeah.
Yeah. He loves Michigan State and Ohio State. Really just genuinely loves it. So first off is from Austin SPD. Austin says, I listen to every episode on iHeart and will not let me leave a 5-star review. But so here we go. So he just went to Apple specifically to leave a review for us.
I'm glad we're on iHeart. I didn't think I know that. So that's good to know.
The more you know. And then this is from JC, who came up to me at Geodis on Saturday and showed me that he had left a review. That's how excited he was that he left a review. So shout out to JC, and shout out to everyone who walked up and said hi to me on Saturday. I think it's the most people that have ever talked to me at Geodis before a game, which was kind of wild. So shout out to everyone. But this is what JC said: Geodis energy in podcast form. Pharmaceutical soccer isn't just a podcast, it's a masterclass in banter, tactics, and NSC therapy with 0 wasted touches.
Love that.
Listening is like the boys is watching. Yeah. Listening is like watching the boys in gold score in stoppage time. It is pure joy with a little bit of yelling at strangers. If this was a player, they would already have a statue outside of Geodis. Stephen, Clay, and Valair never park the bus. They press high and deliver bangers every episode.
Lovely.
According to advanced analytics, this podcast is living proof that chemistry matters. Individually, one of the hosts might raise some eyebrows, but together they simply produce absolute podcast gold.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. That's really good. Thank you for that review.
Yeah. So shout out to JC, and shout out to anybody who also wants to leave a review please leave a 5-star review. If you leave a 5-star review, we will read it on here. If you don't leave a 5-star review, we will not read it. So don't leave it unless you're going to give us 5 stars. That's the way we
Yes.
feel about
Yes.
it. And speaking of 5 stars, we're going to talk about that Minnesota performance in this next segment. You're listening to Pharmaceutical Soccer. Welcome back to Pharmaceutical Soccer. Clay Trainum, joined by Valair Shabilla. Make sure that you guys go out and visit 615soccer.com, where you can see all the things that Valair Shabilla has written. You can also see what Ben Wright has written. We are part of the 615 Soccer family. Soccer Mafia, I guess, is what we're supposed to say here. You can join the Discord. You can, keep up with the best coverage of Nashville SC in the market, and that is what we try to bring you at 615 Soccer. But this is Pharmaceutical Soccer, and you can get our gear at pharmasoccer.com, which, helps me pay some bills from time to time on, the website, things like that. So get your Pharma Soccer gear. Get you a t-shirt. I haven't seen very many Pharma Soccer shirts this year at home. And normally, that's a good luck for people, but considering the team has scored 12 goals at home this year, maybe hold off until we need a big
I
performance.
think
And
they should
then,
buy the shirt and just leave
yeah,
it in the closet,
yeah,
and then they can wear it at home during the away games. Try out different things,
yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. I will say, for the first time on Saturday, I wore a 615 Soccer hoodie.
How did that? I mean, that went well. I don't know why I'm asking. I was there.
Normally, I'm wearing a Pharma Soccer hoodie or a Pharma Soccer t-shirt, but I wore the 615 Soccer hoodie.
Those aren't for sale quite yet, but they might be. We'll work on it. The hoodies.
Yeah, those are exclusive.
Yes, they were
Exclusive.
exclusive for people who put out stuff at 615 Stock. There you go.
Yeah. But anyway, I had a bit of a hot take on Saturday's game, or what I thought might have been a bit of a hot take. And then I read your player ratings on 615soccer.com, and then I didn't feel like it was as much of a hot take as I worried.
What was it?
So I woke up on Saturday morning and I was like, or on Sunday morning, and I was like, now that I've slept on it, I think that Patrick Yazbek had the best performance in NSC history by a center mid. And
That's
then I read your piece and you gave him a 9.5, and I was like, I feel pretty confident about that statement now.
yeah. No, I mean, that's a very big statement considering Dax McCarty and Annabelle Godoy were center mids in Nashville SC, and like that might play a part in that.
And Dax McCarty had a game with 3 assists. I am aware of that, but I
I
feel like
I wasn't even gonna
all
reference that. I was gonna
yeah,
reference the actually the Inter Miami
yeah.
playoff game. I thought he was pretty good in that one too. But yes.
I
It,
mean,
if it's not the best, I wouldn't put it below top three for sure. And that's not even going back and looking. That's just me like
yeah.
remembering all the games that I've watched for NSC.
I mean, just in terms of influence and impact on a game, I cannot think of someone affecting a game in the way that Yazbek affected that game to that extent. Like, he was involved in everything, even in the second Surridge goal. He doesn't just have the assist; like, he starts the entire movement.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, and
like,
and even if you like, obviously the assists are so like easy to find. Like that's such an easy thing to see. But if you look at the way he was moving around the pitch, he was like a man possessed at one point. He was popping up at left wing at times, like and then coming back and tracking all the way back to his own box, pushing it up, taking responsibility of the ball. That's a big thing that they have been working on. Both him and Eddie been working on, really, of taking responsibility of progressing the ball, and not just in terms of let's get it to Hani Mukhtar, see what he can cook up, or let's get it to Espinoza and see what he can cook up. No, it was like let's progress the ball and try to get it to like to a dangerous area. And he said something interesting during his post-match press conference, which you can see on the 615 Soccer YouTube channel. That one is free. You can just go to the YouTube channel, subscribe there. You'll get all the press conferences. He said that him, Hani, and Muyul were trying to form like a 3-10s system, pretty much. So you have Surridge Espinoza kind of in front of Surridge Espinoza in front of them, but then Hani would kind of be behind those two, and then Yazbek and Muyl would kind of push up on the sides and create this sort of overload right outside the box. And you saw it happen multiple times. And if you look at actually Eddie Taxeth's position, he was a lot more central than left because Muyl, while he was kind of a left mid, he was kind of a hybrid center mid as well. And he took up those left side a lot more. And then what allowed Eddie to kind of stay in the middle. Now, Eddie didn't play like he wasn't like super holding back like Matt Cochran would do. He would still come up every now and again and had a little bit of a sort of a couple times where he would go and either Muyl or Yazbek will drop in. But it was really good to see a newer system, or it's not even a new system. I think it's just an evolution of the 4-2-2-2 because that's what it looks like on paper. But when it comes to actually on the field, it's really fluid and it's kind of players playing off each other, which is the hallmark of what a great elite team looks like.
Yeah, and I think part of it was also brought about the way Minnesota was set up. They were perfectly happy for Nashville to just sit in Minnesota's half for huge chunks of the game, and I think that let everybody kind of cheat into different positions and try and create those matchups. I mean, I just remember it seemed like every important moment or potentially important moment, Yazbek was around it in one way or another, and I actually felt I was pretty pleased when they gave him man of the match over Serge because it felt so normal that you just give the guy who scores 2 goals man of the match. And I was like, no, it's definitely Yazbek. I felt really happy that it went to Yazbek. So that's coming out of that. I was sitting there going like, he might not be here by the end of the year. Like that was because going into a World Cup, like there's going to be some people really interested in Patrick Yazbek on the other side of this World Cup if he continues playing at this level.
Yeah, I also thought it was pretty good. What do you say? It was a really good improvement, I guess, from Nashville SC fans to realize that and vote because it is fan voted, right? The player of the match.
I,
So
I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a
some
little bit of
outside influence, yeah. I don't know, but if it's actually fan voted and they voted Diaz back, I think that just shows an improvement of ball knowledge more than anything. Of like, yes, Sturridge had a great game, but Patrick Yazbek was the man of the match, and that's kind
yeah,
of it's kind of become to a point where it was objective at that point. Like anybody watching this match will kind of realize it.
yeah. And kind of going into that, like it's wild to come out of that game, know that Yazbek was the star, and it was a game that all the DPs were still firing.
Mm-hmm.
Like Christian Espinosa, great. Sam Surge, great. Great finishing from Surge on his second goal. First goal, there's a reason they didn't show a lot of replays on the. There's a
I would
reason they
say
didn't show a lot
great
of replays
finish
on the match
too.
recap. But and then I think Hani had a really good game. I think Hani was as influential as you could be without like necessarily showing up on the score sheet. Although he's going to score one of those from 45 out this year. I thought that was going to be the time because he just didn't loft it. He just didn't quite have enough loft to get it
Yeah,
over
yeah,
Calendar.
yeah. Calendar he left his box and was almost left for stranded, but no. But I do think your point about DPS is a pretty good one because I think it also goes back to something we've talked about so much of like, well, if Hani Mukhtar can't do anything, no one can. And Hani Mukhtar was very active. Don't get me wrong, and so was Andy Nahar. He was active going up and down. But those two were kind of the catalyst for anything that happened with Nashville in terms of creativity. And neither of them had an assist this match. Now, Hani kind of had an assist. I wouldn't count it. It doesn't count, but I would count it. But regardless, seeing those two not be on the score sheet and having Nashville still come up with 3 goals was really, really positive.
Yeah, Hani's shot would count as an assist in college, but not anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Not
in
around the
college, a
world.
rebound counts as an assist. But I will say this: the one thing that I did see from Nahar, and I do think that this is actually, I think Minnesota did a really good job one-on-one defending against Nahar, probably as good as I've seen anybody do, where they just stopped him like maybe 3 times. Where usually we're used to seeing Nahar beat someone,
Yeah.
one-on-one, and it didn't really happen a few times. Uh, but I think it also speaks to how good Nashville is. That like it didn't matter because normally, in years, I mean, I don't know how many times we're going to reference in years past, but like that's a typical way that Nashville's going to develop a goal, and they found a way of developing a goal through other people, and I do think that that's worth noting too.
I think also for Surridge specifically, we talked about Espinoza and what the goal means for him. That was his first goal for Nashville SC. But for Surridge specifically, he's at 5 goals this season from 3 games. That's an insane thing to say.
Unlucky to not have six. I mean,
Yeah,
he if he gets his feet right after that Minnesota banger, like
yeah, he could have had another one too, or two actually. I don't know. Like I think the way for him, talk about Yazbek, maybe somebody coming in the summer for a Yazbek. There were rumors about Surridge. I know he ended up signing a new contract, but look, if he scores, if he's if he continues on this average, I think by halfway through the year, which would be the summer, yeah, he. I listened to a podcast, British podcast. They talk about Premier League mostly, called Football Ramble, and they have this ongoing joke about English strikers who will be the second to Harry Kane in the World Cup, and they just like will find like Andy Carroll. They'll say like random names, right? And because Andy Carroll is still playing soccer, which is a wild thing to say if you're man of my age or Clay's age, you've been
hey,
hearing about him for a while. um, but but
Andy Carroll cost Liverpool like three times what Luis Suarez cost in the same window.
yeah, and only one of those bit someone. So what's your point? No,
No, I was just meaning like that's how like
the and I'm gonna write to them. I'm gonna write to Football Ramble and just say, hey, look. I'm just saying, if Ivan Toney is in contention in the Saudi league, now Ivan Toney has like something ridiculous, like 40 goals in 10 games or something. It's not that bad, but it's kind of like that. I'm just like, hey, look, you got to look at this guy. He is out here banging them in. He's there were Premier League teams, a team interested in him apparently. So I'm just saying he's not going to go to the World Cup with England. That's a ridiculous thing to say. But what I'm saying is that
he's used to scoring in this weather.
yeah, that is true. He knows the area. He knows the area where
I'm
England is
just
playing in
saying,
Texas, I think.
English
So,
people aren't used to scoring when it's 100 degrees outside. I'll tell you that much. They're used to getting sunburned.
and wait a minute, England are going to play in Dallas, and Dallas is the game that he missed. Wait a minute, what was he doing? Was he with a team? Start a rumor. But all that said, I think it's a really really like positive thing for him to obviously score those goals. But I think what's even better is that the way he scored those 2 goals. So the first one is just being there, right place, right time. Let me attack the ball and see what happens. The second one, he's actually involved in the build-up. Run the ball is played in front of him. He runs, takes a small touch, and man, he hits that ball really, really hard. Like no goalkeeper saving that. And I think seeing those two sort of goals coming for him are going to be really good for his confidence.
By the way, very funny situation with that goal, the first goal, is that when they credited it, because from my vantage point at Geodis, right, it absolutely hit Surridge. And it
I didn't
looks like it
see it
hit
until the replay.
it.
Yeah.
It absolutely hit Surridge, and it looks like it hits his hand. Like
Uh,
everyone in our section is like convinced that Surridge scored the goal. Now I'm convinced it might have been a handball because I see his arms at his side and I see it bounce down. And so I'm like, oh, they must be checking a handball. And then they put Patrick Yazbek scored it, and literally our whole section is like, what are they talking about? Like,
yeah,
definitely hit Surridge. And I was talking to somebody about it today, and I was just like, uh, yeah, from our vantage point, there's no doubt that Sam Surridge touched it. It's kind of weird that anyone thought Sam didn't touch it. But it just shows you how weird it is being in the stadium, like how much your vantage point changes just a little
yeah.
bit. Because where we were standing, no doubt whatsoever that he touched it.
Yeah, some people were saying Espinoza scored it. Some people were saying it was Yazbek. Some were saying own goal. I mean, there was a lot of situations going up. But then when you see the replay, you're like, oh, this is what happened. I would say maybe got away with one there. I don't even know if got away with one.
These
It's a close
these
one.
things, they should have had a penalty in the second half. I'm very much of the opinion that these things offset over the course of the
Yes,
season.
yes, I do agree that that one wasn't. I don't know. I think it was reviewed and waved off. The one where Surridge kind of got run into by a Minnesota player. It seemed like a pretty clear penalty in real time. Watching it in replay, I'm like, still kind of worth at least a referee review. But look, I we avoid talking about the referees, and let's just keep doing that, I guess. One other sort of, I mean, I guess the entire team is kind of playing really well, and I think defensively we have to mention that like the it's not as stable. I don't think it's as stable as it has been in the past, but it's almost worth that risk because of how good it looks on the other side. It's like, when you look at Wileji and Palacios, they have recovering speed first and foremost, which is very important in these situations. And then Lovitz and Nahar, we know their game, right? We know what they're thinking first and foremost. I also think there's a room for improvement there, and I think something that as the season goes, you get a midseason form. We might see Nashville lock up even better. I did think in transition, Nashville were found out a couple of times, and a team better than Minnesota might have gotten more than one goal out of it.
I was going to talk a little bit about that. I also think that the mindset of our two, like, I think the mindset of the two center backs wanting to push forward is probably going to hurt Nashville at some point. I think it's worth that because you're gonna get more goals than you'll give up probably. But there was definitely one sequence where it was they're recycling the ball off a corner, and it kind of wasn't there. So Nashville was trying to settle back into possession, and Palacios was like screaming to put the ball back over. Like he had his hands up, he was trying to get him to put it back over, and then he like put his head down and then jogged back to the back four. And I was just like, yeah, that's probably there's gonna be a time or two where they're a little bit too committed forward, and we saw that. There was the opener, the home opener, where Palacios was like, trying to shoot from 4 yards out, and
Yeah.
and we saw it with Leggy as well. And I don't, again, Walker Zimmerman's done stuff like that before too. Like this is not something that's new to Nashville necessarily, but I do think with two fullbacks that are guys that are going to be offensively minded, now two center backs that are offensively minded, and maybe a goalkeeper who's going to be challenged a little bit by teams this year, knowing that this is his first full year as a starter, we're going to see Nashville give up a soft goal here or there.
Yeah.
And I do think that people just have to be prepared because that is what's going to happen. It's like if you have a good basketball team that's good on the break, that's good in transition, that's going to fast break, they're going to have some silly turnovers that are going to result in points on the other end. It's just that's the nature of the beast. You're going to give up some goals that you shouldn't give up. If you play it out of the back, sometimes playing out of the back goes wrong. And I think people need to be prepared for that with the way that this team is structured, that this won't be a team that you're necessarily going to feel comfortable seeing out a 1-0 victory. But it will be a team that you might be real comfortable seeing out like a 3-2 victory.
And I think that's kind of the point, right? It's like, yeah, if Nashville's risks, they are risks at the end of the day. Playing out the back is a risk. Playing higher up is a risk. If those risks don't pan out always, that's something they know and they're accepting. They're accepting that risk. What's gonna happen one or two times as well is not just on the other side, but the other situation will occur where Palacios pushing all the way up to the opponent's box will result in a ball getting to Mukhtar or Surridge or somebody, and boom, Nashville scores a goal. That's going to happen. Maybe not as frequently as what you are describing, but it's going to happen. And the sort of chaos it creates is kind of, at least for Nashville, is worth the risk right now. So I am curious to see how it lines up with a better team. I thought we saw with Dallas, Dallas were probably the best team Nashville have played this season, or at least played Nashville the best, if we're putting it that way. Obviously, Miami coming up is going to be different. Curious to see how that fares against one of those sort of superpowers of MLS. How does that fare, and how does Nashville adjust to it? That's something BJ Callen has talked about, is that he adjusted to a back three against Dallas. He adjusted to Dallas's back three with the 4-3-3 formation and kind of reverted back to a hybrid for this one against Minnesota. So what happens next is the question. But the more ways that Nashville are finding to play the game and win the games, the better and the less predictable they are to opponents. And that's really where you want to be. And that's kind of the the other benefit of having depth is like, well, yeah, I mean, Madrigal started the first couple of games, and all of a sudden you have Muyl, who completely changes the way Nashville play. So now you have another way of winning, not just on the field, not just in the system, but also in terms of personnel.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting watching that player because that is the particular spot that if you're looking at Nashville as a starting 11, that's the one spot that you don't really know about yet. And it's not even necessarily the same position because they all kind of play it differently. But Madrigal, Kasim Moyle, like who's going to be in that role, 3 months from now?
Yeah.
And I do. It is wild because they are three incredibly different players, and you can see them working in a way that works for Nashville, and that might be the one wild card, the Joker, the like, all right, this team does this, so therefore it'll be this player type of situation. I do want to just I think Minnesota is a good team. I think Minnesota will be a good team this year. I think like that I don't want to let that get lost in all of this. Like this is not just a great performance against some MLS team. I think that this is a pretty great performance against a team that will beat a lot of good teams.
Well, I was going to say that Minnesota beat Cincinnati, but considering Toronto beat Cincinnati yesterday, I don't know if that's even that means anything anymore.
Yeah. So we'll we'll talk a little bit about some stuff that happened in the league this weekend because there's a couple fun things that happened in the league this weekend, but maybe not more fun than that. uh, but I do think that this Minnesota team is a team that's going to have some scalps at the end of the year, and Nashville getting a win and that type of win with style points is something that's going to resonate as the season goes on, sort of like the Philadelphia wins did for Nashville last year.
Yeah. I think it's kind of it, again, I don't want to put everything on this Miami game, but it does put you in a really, really good position to go into the Miami game. And I know technically the advantage is to have the second leg be at home. I know that's the advantage, but this might be a little bit better for Nashville that they're coming up hot of the weekend to a Wednesday game at home that they can set the tone for the whole tie.
Absolutely. To try and do what Vancouver did.
Yeah, yeah,
Catch them early
yeah.
and see what you can happen. So we're going to talk about the Miami game. We're also going to talk about the Columbus game, a game that I almost forget about because that's how big the Miami game is weighing on the rest of this week. And we will talk about that and more in our final segment. You're listening to Pharmaceutical Soccer. And welcome back to Pharmaceutical Soccer. Clay Trainum joined by Valair Shabilla. Steven is still mourning the loss for Minnesota United. Hopefully he'll be back next week. So, busy week ahead for Nashville SC. There's a Miami game. We've talked around it. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. There's also a Columbus game. I know no one is thinking about the Columbus game right now, unless you're listening to this on Thursday. Then you're all probably thinking about the Columbus game for either good or bad reasons. And before we talk about either of those games, there was some fun stuff that happened around the league. It was a really great weekend for the country of Canada.
Yeah, really great Sunday for the country of Canada. Yeah,
Yeah, no kidding. Two teams that, specifically on Sunday, two teams that many people think might be among the worst in the league, getting big wins. Of course, TFC, the Fighting Walker Zimmermans, although Walker Zimmerman did go out with potentially a concussion,
yeah.
gets a win against FC Cincinnati, and then Montreal. Montreal just put the hammer down on the Red Bulls 3-0. Montreal had looked terrible up until that point, and the Red Bulls had looked actually pretty exciting. But the Red Bulls are a young team, and sometimes with a young team, weird results happen.
I'm just saying, Choupo-Moting didn't start the first two games and they won, and as soon as he started, they lost. So, look, I'm just saying something needs to change here. But in reality, they did have an injury or a couple injuries, I guess, for the Red Bulls. So, I'm sure there are better podcasts who will cover that for you. But yeah, that I thought was interesting because I watched pretty much that whole game, and I was like, this is I think the scoreline flattered Montreal a little bit, but they
Yeah.
deserve it. I'm not saying they don't deserve it. And we do want to wish Walker Zimmerman obviously the best.
Yeah.
He's already had a concussion
Also,
recently, so hoping it's not too bad.
also a big another big weekend for your boys out in Sandy, Utah, at America First Stadium.
Yeah, I mean they came into to America's second stadium, Mercedes Benz, Germany first stadium, if you would, and um, and beat Atlanta 3-2. And they actually, I didn't watch that whole game. I watched a good bit of the beginning of it, and Real Salt Lake looked really good with a bunch of children and 7 injuries to the first team. So we'll see what happens when they come back. Even Diego Luna wasn't playing, and then the other big one, obviously, we already mentioned Miami DC, and it kind of was not that exciting of a game, but Orlando lost 5-0 to NYCFC and got a Maxime Crepeau, Nashville's favorite goalkeeper, came out of his box and tried to grab the ball in the 18th minute when it was 0-0 and got a red card. That's the state of where Orlando is at the moment. A lot of questions about Oscar Pereira, the coach, and 3 losses on the season so far for the Lions there. So yeah, exciting weekend in MLS. I would go back and watch the highlights for sure.
Was Crepeau at Ottawa when
Yes,
Nashville was in
yes. So
RSL?
when
When Nashville
Nashville,
was in USL?
he was on loan to Ottawa from Montreal, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, but not Atletico Ottawa, the OG
Ottawa
Ottawa
Fury.
Furry.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Not
So
Ottawa Furry. Ottawa Fury.
Fury. English is my third language. Ottawa Furry is a different thing, probably. I don't want you to look that up. That's
No.
great. That is
Yeah,
good.
they didn't when they would do the goalie chant for for Crepeau when he was with the Fury. They did not say Crepeau. They said something that sounded relatively close to that.
Yeah, fair enough.
That was an anatomical. Uh, but anyway, moving on. Let's talk about Inter Miami. What more can you say about Inter Miami games with Nashville that you? I mean, here they come. Two more.
Dude,
Two
I'm
more.
writing the preview for this game for 615 Soccer, and I'm about to just copy something from the playoffs and just be like, let's see if people notice. I'm I'm just yeah, it's Nashville versus Miami again. Messi's gonna score a goal at Geodis Park. We know that. That's put in pen. That's not changing. What could
Do we?
change is the result. That's what you're looking at.
I mean, it's gotten to the point where Inter Miami and Nashville have played more often than Celtic and Rangers have played.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah. I mean, this is the 20th game between the two teams, and I don't know how many since Messi got here, but they've played these two teams have played each other in every single iteration of their existence, except USL for Nashville. Like if since MLS, there have been obviously different coaches for Miami, different coaches for Nashville, different styles, different DPs. I mean, every iteration and in every competition, every possible competition Nashville can
Yeah.
play in, they have played Inter Miami. There hasn't been a single competition where they haven't faced Inter Miami. So yeah, it's a lot. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about Inter Miami necessarily because I feel like everybody else does. They do look fairly different this season. Bartirames up top instead of Suarez. There's still some holes they're trying to fill. DePaul is becoming more and more important to that midfield with Busquets gone. They are in a back three shape often, so that's why I was curious about what BJ Callahan's gonna do because last time he played a back three, he did revert to the 4-3-3. We'll have to wait and see what happens there, but overall, I do think this is a different team than last season. It doesn't feel like continuation of that.
And I think that this is the if Nashville will probably play Inter Miami, maybe in 3 competitions this year. And I think that this is the one time that you would want to face them.
Yes.
because I think Inter Miami will be in a different level once they're used to playing with each other. Fortunately for Nashville, their big DP signing looks to have slotted in wonderfully and is ripping and roaring, as you saw in the last game. Inter Miami is still kind of figuring out how to play with each other. And so we saw what happened last year in this competition where Vancouver came and tore them apart in this round. And then we saw what happened by the end of the season. So, like, you would rather face Miami now if you're going to face them, especially in this competition. I do think it does set up. This is not only is this a marker, but obviously I think Inter Miami would be one of the favorites in this entire tournament, and it'd be good confidence because it won't get any easier from there.
Right.
I mean, you're looking at Club America, Monterrey. You're looking at some other big Los Gigantes, as they're called, like after this.
And and I
If you
know
get back,
I know Clay likes this metaphor because it's related to cricket or something, and I don't think it's quite a free hit for Nashville, but I do think they have less to lose here. If
yeah,
Nashville go out to Inter Miami in the round of 16, it is what it is. Nashville's still slated for probably their best season ever. If Inter Miami go out to Nashville here, it's a disaster. It's immediately a disaster of a season. And that is the difference between the two. And I think that that pressure might play in Nashville's favor, obviously, in both narrative and on the pitch.
this is the most pressure that Miami has faced this early in the season ever. Like, because this is the competition that they are telling everybody they want to win. They don't want to be playing in Copa Libertadores having been knocked out in their first round
Yeah.
of CONCACAF Champions League. Like, they want to be able to say they earned their way into Copa Libertadores, which we'll see.
Yeah,
And
it's big for their reputation. That's all it is.
yeah, it's a huge reputational thing. Like, so they want to do it. Nashville, if they go out in this round, this is a very tough competition. Nashville beats Inter Miami. It's still real tough. They're going to be going to Mexico to try and win games. It's real tough. It'll have knock-on effects on the whole season. So Nashville not having these games means that Nashville suddenly becomes a real contender for Supporters Shield, where that would have been pretty difficult, in a CONCACAF Champions
Mhm.
Cup run. So, it does work out, kind of both ways for Nashville. But of course, it's Inter Miami. Everybody wants to beat Messi. That's the way it is.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's about it that we can say without repeating things we've said so much. Um, I did totally forget about the Columbus game. Not gonna lie to you
Everybody
guys.
has. I had
It
to
is
look up to remind myself who they were even playing because
Yeah,
it
it
just
was.
all
It
didn't
is
matter.
going to be at Columbus on Saturday, following the Miami match, and it's a little bit of an early kickoff on that one. So just a heads up, it's a 5:15 kickoff. I don't know why, but it is. And then the Columbus, they have a new coach. He's more power friendship even than Wilfred Nancy. So um, results haven't gone their way, but they seem to be starting to play in a way that I think Nashville SC will actually really enjoy. I think Columbus are coming out and playing a lot of soccer, and I think Nashville SC can really, really punish them for that. At the same time, it is important to say that Columbus still have match winners in this squad. Diego Rossi is as good as ever been in MLS, but at their just couple results, they lost to Portland 3-2, barely lost to Portland 3-2 to start the season. 2-2 draw away at SKC. They missed a penalty in the 89th minute there. With Sama Wali, who is their new DP striker, missed a penalty there to win the match. So again, the result doesn't really represent the match. And then 0-0 draw against Greg Berhalter's Chicago. I didn't actually watch this match, so I can't really tell you much, but I can tell you that Columbus looked the better team just looking at the stats here. So they're not a bad team at all. Maybe they're not the Columbus of Wilfred Nancy, but I wouldn't overlook them. What I would say is that there might be some rotation for Nashville SC, and that might result in something different, especially
If
away from home.
if Nashville goes out and gets a result, especially a tight result against Miami, I would expect there to be a lot of rotation with another Miami game happening the next Wednesday. And so Columbus might be a chance for a Madrigal, for a Kasim, for a Passius, like to really like make a name for themselves. For Kasim specifically, to put himself back into the conversation, to be a starter, like that's the opportunity that is coming up for one of those guys. So that's what I would take out of it. This is what we're talking about with CONCACAF Champions Cup is you have to prioritize the Champions Cup for obvious reasons, and it's tough to go to Columbus and get a result. It's tough at full strength, and they're not going to be at full strength. They might throw a first 11 out there, but they won't be a full strength first 11 because they will have just played a tough game that might have gone late into the night with the weather expected in Nashville on Wednesday night. So I do think might be might be a tough one. Might be a tough one on Saturday.
I did ask BJ about that, by the way, and his answer was the best players in the world are playing 2 or 3 games a week, and we expect the same from our guys. So maybe there won't be rotation.
Okay, well we saw plenty of rotation in midweek games last year. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see on that. But yes, you did mention the weather. We didn't actually talk about it. I know it's on the rundown, Clay, but it seems like it's going to be ugly on Wednesday night here in Nashville. And I would say if you're going to the stadium, expect a delay in the match. They are going to play the match. I don't think that's going to be moved, but it's going to be Nashville weather delays, which could be 30 minutes and it could be 7 hours. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and that could play in Nashville's favor too.
Or against them. I don't know. Could be
Yeah,
anything. Yeah.
Well,
Does Messi have a bedtime? Is that what you're alluding to? It's like,
they are all old.
yeah, I don't play after 9.
They are old.
Yeah.
I do think that being in a comfortable place when you're sitting out like a 4 or 5 hour delay.
Yeah.
I mean that
That's fair.
at least I'd much rather have a weather delay in Nashville than one in that nasty stadium.
Yeah, for
Whatever
sure.
Lockhart Stadium is called now in Miami or in Fort Lauderdale, I should say.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know.
They
I
haven't
don't know what
moved
it's
yet.
called.
Yeah, yeah,
It's called the Inter Miami Stadium for this one last game, and then they're gonna open their new stadium, which is Freedom Park, but it has some
yeah.
crypto name I don't care for. Yeah, is that it? Anything else?
I don't know. I'm just excited. Let's get it to Wednesday already.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get this as soon as possible.
All right. Well, so we've talked about it at length. What good and tight. Do you have any? Where can people follow you, and what do you think is going to happen in these 2 games this week?
People can follow me at Valair Shabilla on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, 615 Soccer, all of those places. Yeah, just go.
Kickback Media.
Yes. Oh, yes. Back, kickback media. YouTube. Yeah, there you go. Please go follow me wherever you follow me at, wherever you're not following me at, and yeah, make sure you're giving this podcast a review. Like I always say, 5-star. We'll read it on here. We love all the support we've gotten for both 615 Soccer and for this podcast, and we would love to keep it going. I think Miami and Nashville will play to a 2-2 draw in Nashville to repeat the last time these two teams played in CCC. I think goals are going to come from Sam Surridge,
Yeah.
both of them, because he can only score in twos in against MLS opposition, apparently. And then I think the Columbus game is going to be a Nashville win, actually. And I think that's going to be a 2-1 Nashville win with 1 goal from Surridge and 1 goal from Madrigal. So that's my prediction.
I am going to go. Well, first off, you can follow me at Clay Russell on Instagram and Twitter. Check out the Nashville Soccer Archive. Reach out to me if there's anything you'd like to donate to the Nashville Soccer Archive. You can also check out Kicking at 615. They do great work in the area. And I think Nashville's going to win on Wednesday. I feel it. I think it's going to be, let's go 2-1. 2-1, Hani Mukhtar penalty, and a Hani Mukhtar goal. I think this one's personal for Hani. I think
One of those.
It's weird to say a Hani Mukhtar penalty, but because I think it would be Serge taking it, but
Yeah.
we're going to go with it anyway.
You're committed now. What about
I'm
Columbus?
committed now. I'm committed now. It's a Hani Mukhtar penalty, even though Serge takes it. Serge misses it, but Hani knocks in the rebound. Right? That's how we're going to do it. And then Columbus, I think it's a tough one in Columbus. I think that Nashville is going to play late into the night against Miami, and it's going to be tough to get back up for Columbus with another Miami game coming up, and I think it's going to be a loss. I'm going to say a 2-1 loss at Columbus. And Stephen will be back to talk about his love for Minnesota and Chattanooga. And if Nashville beats Inter Miami, he's going to talk about how much he loves Nashville. But we know the truth here on Pharmaceutical Soccer, and don't ever let him forget it. Also, leave us a 5-star review on Apple. We will read it on here only if it's 5 stars. And check us out. We will be back next week. Thanks for listening to Pharmaceutical Soccer.